How y'all doing? I'm trying to turn this off because I don't want any copyright issues. So good morning, and welcome to another session of Meditations with Marigny. I hope my camera is going to cooperate today and not be shaking all over the place. Shake it fast. Watch yourself. Let's see if we can get that right this morning. Y'all doing okay today? I hope that you are. We're off to a great Monday morning. I feel a little bit naked. When I wear my pearls, I typically wear them, I lay them out, like, especially on a day that I haven't been to work and I know I'm going to be up later or something like that. I try to lay everything out. And I was driving just now and I realized that I left my bracelets. If you guys pay any attention to my channel, oh, I'm sorry, I hit the mic. If you pay any attention to my channel, you know that I typically have on a bracelet. And most times I might have on a ring. But how y'all doing today? Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to jump on this morning and give y'all a little bit to laugh about, but some things to think about. Over the weekend, I was talking with a friend, platonic friend, and we kind of sometimes talk about relationship stuff. And it's a guy. And he'll tell me about his experiences with, these ladies. And I sometimes will tell him about my experiences with the guys. Or we're kind of feeding off of each other. He's like, well, what does this mean? Or what does that mean? When a woman does this, and I will have to say, like, one of the things I told him, I said, man, you are so in tune with certain things. He was talking about, like, even down to the way that a woman hugs you and how, a hug represents something. Like the way she hugs you, it tells you something about her. And I was like, wow, that's pretty deep. I mean, like, all jokes aside, when we really started talking about it, I told him, I said, wow, most of that, you hit it like dead on. And so anyway, I wanted to chat with you guys about, are you ready? And in that conversation, there were some things that we discussed. And I said, you're giving me content, right? And so I want to go back and talk about you. Is it okay for me to talk about you as long as I don't disclose who you are? And he said, sure. He was like, yeah, that's good information. And so I kind of want to talk about something that he said about watching my videos. And it just goes to show that people don't know you, but they do know you. Like, social media can, many people are just putting on a facade. Like they're showing you what they feel is going to be what I call the bait for, either gaining people for their channel or people to grow their channel. But a lot of people are just not authentic. And so I said, well, what'd you think about the videos? You've been asking, Marigny, share your videos. And I never really would. And then we were talking about something and I knew I had did a video about it. So I sent it to him. And when I sent it, he didn't say anything about it. And then a few days went by. Normally we'll text or ping. He still didn't say nothing. Then when we talked the next time, he still didn't say anything. So I said, he didn't like the video. He don't want to say nothing because he think it might hurt my feelings. And so we talked about it this past weekend. And so while we were talking, he said, well, I thought the video was really good. It was very informative. And he said, but it was kind of teachy. So I said, well, what does that mean? And I could tell he was being gentle because we are friends. So naturally he didn't want to hurt my feelings. And I said, no, bro, we real friends. Like, I know that anything that you say to me is going to come from a good place. And I definitely want to know what you think as a man. Like, what's your thought process on what you heard? And I can't remember the video that I sent him, but anyway, it was one where it was talking about men and women, like how women respond to men or something of that sort. So anyway, he said, I just felt like it was really kind of teachy. He said, and I get it because you're an educator. So it was more like a teaching video. And then he said, but you're way more fun than that. Like you're so funny, and you have so much more personality than what I saw in the video. And I said to him, I said, the video is intended to be teaching. The video is not intended to be entertainment. It's intended to, what did I use? What word did I use? It's intended to, it's not intended to be entertainment. It is intended to be, I don't remember the word, but anyway, I was basically telling him that my videos are for people who are really wanting to learn, really wanting to grow, and wanting to develop in this thing called life. And so I get it that my channel is not going to take off and go viral. And I'm not looking for that. You know, I don't even know how long that I will be out here on YouTube, because this is what God has called me to do for this moment. And when my husband comes, I don't know if this is going to be a part of our pathway. So I'm not forecasting what is to come. I'm just living right now in the moment that God has me living in. And so, you know, he was like, man, you so much more funnier than those videos, and you're not as serious as they come off. And I said, well, I got a few that's kind of funny, you know, where I kind of let people in and see who I really am. But for the most part, you know, I just believe that God is speaking to the people that he needs to speak to through these videos. And in that process, I have to be content in what God has given me to deliver and how he's given it to me. And one of the things that I shared with him, I said, there are enough people out here entertaining people. Like we don't need any more entertainers in the area of relationship, because there are enough people that are doing that. That red pill community and that pink pill community, they have enough following, and they have a loud enough voice that people can go to those angry channels and, you know, dismissing one another as far as our relationships and how we don't need one another. We need each other. Men need women and women need men. And however it is that God would have us to move, we have to be able to deliver in our own way. And one of the things that I shared with him when we were talking, I was talking about the authenticity of relationships. Like, most people are so afraid to let somebody see who they really are. And some of that comes from some childhood trauma or some childhood issues. And then some of that comes from adult trauma and adult issues. I did not, and you guys have heard me share this on my video before, I did not have any childhood trauma. Like, I don't recall anything that would take me back to my childhood that would make me so fearful or so unapproachable or closed in. I don't have anything that represents that in my childhood life. But in my adult life, I have experienced some things that I was so unguarded. I was so open that I did not know to be closed off. And for a season, I did choose to close myself off. But how many of you know, and this is something that I shared with him, and I asked, that's when I asked him for sure, could I, use him as an example on my channel. One of the things that I shared with him, we were talking about going back. If there's somebody in your life that you just keep those doors open, and he was saying that, there are people that he's dated that maybe they didn't break up or anything like that, but he keep those doors open. And that I told him, I said, okay, brother, can I really talk to you? And he said, yeah. I said, can we have a real conversation? He said, yeah. And I said, all right, we're going into surgery and it's emergency. And he said, okay. I said, so I need you to get ready because I'm getting ready to cut you. And he said, okay. And I said, if you still have open doors because you are keeping those doors open just in case what happens with you and the new person doesn't work out, you're not ready for a relationship. And he said, what? I mean, I'm just saying, like, in case you know, things don't work out. I said, but if you go into the relationship with that mindset, then you're already setting up a pathway for it to fail. See, every relationship that we get, guys, for those of us that say we really want true relationship, and for those of us that say that we want to find love, I hear men say that to me all the time. I want to find love. I want to find my life partner, this, that, and the other. No, no, no. Because you're still wounded from the wife that took everything from you, and you don't want to open yourself up to a new person. And you're still, my brother and I were talking yesterday, and he said, well, Mary, you know, life is a gamble. Most men, if they gambled at one time, because he and I were talking about me and these relationships and dating processes. And he said, most men, if they gamble one time and they lost after a 20-year investment, they don't want to do that again. I said, and that's fine. I think that's perfectly fine to not want to gamble again. But what's not okay is to be involved with someone that does. In my situation, it was a gamble for me. And you never could have told me that right now we wouldn't be celebrating. Matter of fact, our anniversary, I think it would have been today, if I'm not mistaken. No, it would have been a couple of days from now. We would have been celebrating, what, 15, 16 years? So, yeah. But I'm not going to let the 10 years that I did give up keep me in a place where the next 30 years of my life, I'm stuck. And so if we aren't ready, and it's okay to say that we aren't ready. It's not until you meet the person, it's not until you meet the person that you're willing to be completely vulnerable with. And they have to create a safe zone. And so this is what I'll say to ladies. You know, I think that men, there's a natural instinct for them to want to care for us. And when I say want to care for us, the natural protector in them, the natural covering in them, if you will. And this is a healthy man that I'm speaking of. So I'm not speaking of people that might be still dealing with their own trauma and their own issues. And we all will deal with that. You know, I think that the notion to think that we are going to be perfect for our partner is unreasonable. It is not realistic, because none of us are perfect. And counseling in the beginning may be the best process because of the fact that it will open up the wounds that are there and give you the opportunity to have a safe space to talk them through. Now, what I will say, you know, you have to know somebody well enough, because I joke around a lot, and you have to know someone well enough that, like, in my jokey, I have to make sure that I'm not throwing jabs that could further injure that wound. And I have to be cognizant of that to make sure that I am affording them the opportunity to be vulnerable with me and not make light of something that might be serious to them. And so, you know, basically with the conversation, it just ended up being that we kind of just talked about the fact that, bro, you're not ready. Like, if you still got access, or you still want access, because we all got access. Like, in my phone, I am still cleaning up phone numbers. And to be honest, when you're in the dating process, if you did it the right way and you shared your information with people, there are numbers and things like that that might be in my phone that I might not even remember. Like, they might not be people that I saved, but I have tried to go through my phone and start to clean up the things and people that I knew, that I had like a regular conversation with on a consistent basis. You know, I spoke with them for a couple of weeks or something. We may have gone to lunch or dinner or breakfast or something. And so those things I'm more cautious of in making sure that I try to clean them up and organize myself. But, you know, the main thing for him was, I was telling him, bruh, You are not, I don't usually use that word, bro, because I don't really like it. But with him, because that's one of my cool buddies, I said, you're not ready. Like, Cisco go in, like, I want you to give me permission to do surgery. And he said, okay. And I just explained to him, if you are holding on to someone else that's from your past, that is unfair to the person that you're saying that you want to meet for your future. We all have longing of relationships, and that's a natural process. We might have somebody that's in our heart that we cared for them, or we loved them, or we had a emotional connection to them, and there might be a longing there. That is a very natural process. But what you don't want to do is go into a new relationship and go into a relationship that you think is going to be viable for you to have long term, and you have open doors of other women and or other men that have access to you. So, you know, it cuts off the fair process for that new person, because you already have an emotional connection with this other person. You already have a physical connection with this other person. So there's an advantage that's already there for the person that you currently meet. And so even if you like the current person, there's already a comparison. This person don't talk to me like this person. This person not as jokey as that person. This person is not as fine as that person. This person is not as tall as that person. This person is not as cute as that person. Like, all those elements are already there. But then what you have to look at is, am I going to give this person a fair chance? And in that, you are going to meet people who are like me. On these videos, I am more teachy because these videos are teaching videos. They are videos that somebody that is truly trying to learn something is coming forth to try and better themselves. And in that process, it is going to look more like being in a classroom and me teaching something. But if I'm on the pool table, or if I'm at the local cookout and we playing cards, I'm talking trash and I am having a good time, because I'm more than one dimensional. I'm not one linear. I am 3, 4, 5 dimensions, and I have multiple facets to myself. I laugh because that song that Beyonce did, "Let Me Upgrade You." I love that song. I think that song is a great representation of what relationships is supposed to look like. And it's interesting because Jay-Z was already he was already a king in his own way. Before he came in contact with her, he was already at the top of the game. But in that video, she talks to him in that song. She's like, "Let me upgrade you." In other words, she's at one part where she talks about, you can take me to the boardroom. I'll let you take the lead. And basically she's saying, just to have me by your side is an upgrade in this process. And that is the way that marriage and love is supposed to be. Women have traditionally, and I want to make sure I use my words accurately, because people can take your words and spin them. Traditionally, men may not have necessarily been, when the Bible talks about the woman is the weaker vessel, it didn't say she was weak. She was the weaker vessel. Weaker vessel doesn't mean that the vessel was weak. It just means that he had more strength, or he had more capacity than she did, or that she does. And many people can't really appreciate that component. I think that it was a very beautiful dance that I got to see my parents do. My father, who was an uneducated man, my mother, who had a high school diploma, and what she did to elevate him. My father had his own cleaning business, and he went in and negotiated the contracts. But he brought the contract home to my mama because he couldn't read the contract. Most men would even be afraid to let a woman see his deficiencies. The truth of the matter is, the average black man may have some reading deficiencies, and he's going to have them because it shows that the average black boy has a reading deficiency. When the boys that I work with right now in my school, their reading deficiency is low, very low, but their comprehension is high. Their ability to comprehend what I read to them is high. Their ability to regurgitate that back to me is high. So that tells me that they have the capacity to learn. It's just how we teach them. Same thing in our relationships. So a man may not have a degree or anything of that sort. My brother does not have a degree. That boy can fix anything. My other brother that went to the Marines, he does not, well, he did go back to school to get his degree after he was in the service. But, I'm just saying, and he did that just out of, it was paid for. And he was like, I ain't got nothing else to really do. So, I'm getting ready to, I can't remember if he did his degree before or after he retired. But either way it goes, he didn't go back to school just to get a degree because he was going back to do something different. He went back just for his own personal accomplishment. But my point is my brother only has a high school diploma, but that boy can work on electrical, he can work on plumbing, he can work on HVAC, he knows how to work on cars. We had a situation with my son's car recently and we were talking and he was like, well, girl, the only way I know how to do it is, you got to get out there and do it. You're right. I don't know if I had a time to wait on you to play with this because this is an everyday car that we need. And so I'm saying that to say that, sorry guys, I was distracted by making sure we both stopped at the stop sign at the same time. But I'm saying that to say that one part of the relationship should complement the other part. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not ready to, and there are some people still in my phone because I'm single. That's the other difference. If you're single, you can have whoever you want in your phone if you're not seriously dating someone. And you can communicate and relate with whomever that you would like to communicate and relate with. But what you must understand is if you ever decide to move into a serious space with someone, you have to be willing to carve out those people and those places in your life that are not good for the relationship. And one of the things that he asked me, and I'm going to get ready to go, y'all, when I get here. One of the things that he asked me was, he said, so you saying that if I've been friends with somebody for 30 years and I meet somebody and I decide to get married to them, he said, you're saying that I should get rid of those 30-year friendships. And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is if your 30-year friendship cannot be friends with your husband and or your wife. And when I say friends, they can call them on the phone just like they call you. They can come over to your house when they are there, just like you can go hang out at theirs. If your partner cannot hang with that person and there has to be a separation in that relationship, then that is a relationship that you are going to have to cut off, because it is not what it does, but what it leaves the door open to do. And we all are human. You cannot position yourself to be around a man and or a woman that you have a physical attraction to, or that y'all have had intimate relationships, and you not be tempted to possibly fall into that space with them again. And to bring about a level of comfort for your mate. At the end of the day, nobody wants somebody hanging over their head, no man or no woman. And they could be the most confident person in the whole wide world. But if they don't have the confidence from you or the comfort from you in that relationship to say that I let you know that you are my most important component in my life right now, then it puts you in a position where it puts you in a position where it can cause some challenges for that person in your life. So I just wanted to jump on this morning, do a quick talk. I don't even know what I'm gonna name this, because it was just for fun this morning. I didn't have like a specific topic, but I just wanted to chat with y'all. And thank you guys so much for joining in. I see you all in the comments. Hello, good morning. Remember, I don't know how to respond to the comments just yet. So thank you all for the comments. Thank you for the little thumbs up and things that you put there. And I appreciate you guys for everything. I'm going to get ready to jump inside this building, and I will chat with you guys a little bit later. Have an awesome day, y'all. Bye.